আচ্ছা, আজকে শুরু করি আমরা। তো আজকে আমাদের যে আলোচনাটা করবো আমরা মানে অ্যারাউন্ড 60 মিনিটস এর মতো হবে, যেটা আসলে পিএমআই অ্যাপ্রুভড 1 পিডিইউ। আপনারা এটা ক্লেম করতে পারবেন উইথ এ পার্টিকুলার কোড, স্পেসিফিক কোড। সেটা আমি শেয়ার করবো যারা পার্টিসিপেট করবেন এবং ফুল সেশনে থাকবেন। সো আমি একটু শুরু করছি। আমরা নিশ্চয়ই দেখেছি যে মানে প্রি করোনা স্টেজে মানে this guy, I think everybody knows him, Dr. Jahangir Kobi, and the keto diet. That was another thing. So, and this cycling group, there are actually a lot of cycling groups now. They are doing the cycling, and then this is the runner groups. So, without permission, আমি আসলে অনেক ছবি এখানে ইউজ করেছি। So, আজকে ডিসকাশনের সাথে ডক্টর জাহাঙ্গীর কবির বা কিটো ডায়েট, রানার গ্রুপ বা সাইক্লিং গ্রুপের রিলেশন কি? So that is the funny part actually. So এই যে আমরা গ্রুপগুলো দেখলাম, সবার টার্গেট হচ্ছে স্লিম, তাই না? যেটাকে আমরা একটু টেকনিক্যালি বলতে পারি লিন। কিভাবে আমি স্লিম হতে পারি, লিন হতে পারি, নিজেকে ফিট রাখতে পারি, অ্যাক্টিভ রাখতে পারি এবং অ্যাজাইল রাখতে পারি, রাইট? সো PMBOK 7 এডিশনে যদি একটা আউটসেট আমরা দেখি, বাহির থেকে দেখি যে কি ঘটছে PMBOK 7 এডিশনে, তাহলে আমি যে জিনিসগুলো প্রথমে দেখতে পাচ্ছি from the outset, বাইর থেকে, সেটা হচ্ছে যে আগের 6th edition ছিল 756 পেজ, 6th edition. That actually now lean has become slim. All right. So, and it has now become only, see here, only 370 pages. So this is the slimmest publication for last couple of editions of PMBOK. The first version of PMBOK was only 176 pages. So the main reading document is around actually 195 plus 60, 250 pages, main reading document. So it is actually almost the first edition book looks like from the outset. And this PMBOK is now having two parts. One is the standard project management that is actually followed ANSI Standard. And another one is the main guide, a guide to the project management body of knowledge. So this standard for project management, this left side book, that is actually only 65 pages in length. আর যদি আমরা ডান দিকের বইটাতে আসি, এটা হচ্ছে মেইন রিডিং হচ্ছে 195 পেজ, এর সাথে আরো কিছু অ্যাপেন্ডিক্স আছে, ঠিক আছে? সো মানে বই অনেক স্লিম হয়ে গিয়েছে। একটা বইয়ের মধ্যে দুইটা বই, একটা হচ্ছে স্ট্যান্ডার্ড আর একটা হচ্ছে গাইড টু প্রজেক্ট ম্যানেজমেন্ট বডি অফ নলেজ। সো এখানে পার্থক্য, একটা বড় পার্থক্য আছে। আগে আমরা যখন PMBOK দেখেছি, PMBOK এর আমাদের স্ট্যান্ডার্ডটা পড়তে হতো না, স্পেশালি যারা PMP অ্যাসপারেন্ট, PMP পরীক্ষা দিতে চায় তাদের জন্য বলছি, আগে স্ট্যান্ডার্ডটা পড়া লাগতো না, কারণ গাইডের মধ্যে স্ট্যান্ডার্ডের অনেক কিছু ছিল এবং ইন দ্য গাইড অ্যাকচুয়ালি মোর দ্যান দ্যাট অফ স্ট্যান্ডার্ড, এবং স্ট্যান্ডার্ডটাকে ব্যাখ্যা করছিল গাইডে অনেক ডিটেইল। বাট এখন স্ট্যান্ডার্ডে যা আছে গাইডে আবার সেটা নাই, ফলে আপনাকে স্ট্যান্ডার্ডও পড়তে হবে এবং গাইডও পড়তে হবে, দুইটা কম্বাইন করে পড়তে হবে। যারা PMBOK কে বুঝতে চায় তাদের জন্য, এবং যারা PMP পরে পরীক্ষা দেবো, নট দিস ইয়ার, নেক্সট ইয়ার, তাদের জন্য আসলে যখন আমরা পড়বো তখন দুইটাই পড়তে হবে। ওকে, সো আমরা যদি একটু মানে দেখি যে PMBOK আসলে কি কি চেঞ্জ হলো। 1 নম্বর চেঞ্জ যেটা আমার কাছে লাগছে, ইজি রিডিং। মানে এত সহজে বোধহয় PMBOK আর কখনোই লেখা হয় এত সহজে, এত সহজ ভাবে। এন্ড ইউজফুলনেস, আগে আমরা অনেক সময় PMBOK পড়াতে গিয়ে বলতাম যে এটা হচ্ছে প্রজেক্ট ম্যানেজারদের জন্য, বাট PMBOK রাখা হচ্ছে নানান অডিয়েন্সকে টার্গেট করে, নট অনলি প্রজেক্ট ম্যানেজার্স, এটা এখন সবার জন্য, যারা প্রজেক্ট টিমে কাজ করবে, এডুকেটরস, একাডেমিশিয়ানস, এভরিওয়ান, ইভেন স্পন্সর যারা আসলে মানে সিনিয়র লিডার্স, তারাও এটা খুবই সহজে পড়তে পারবে এবং এটাকে আসলে ইন্টারপ্রেট করতে পারবে। সবার জন্য দিস ইজ নাও ওপেন। দেন ওভারস্টাফিং, PMBOK 7 এ একটা প্রবলেম ছিল ওভারস্টাফিং। আমরা অনেক সময় ব্লেম শুনতাম যে বারবার একই জিনিস রিপিট হচ্ছে এবং একটা জিনিস অনেক ডিটেইল ছিল। তো সেই ওভারস্টাফিং এখন নতুন এডিশনে বাদ দিয়ে দেওয়া হয়েছে, ঠিক আছে? সো আর আরেকটা ইজিনেসের জন্য আমি বলতেছি যে আগের পিকচার গুলো বা ইমেজ গুলো ছিল একটু, যেটা আসলে সহজে বুঝতে একটু সমস্যা হতো। যেমন এই ছবিটা, এই ফিগারটা কিন্তু এখন নতুন এডিশনে চেঞ্জ হয়ে গেছে, এরকম একটা ফিগার, যেটা মোর সিম্পল এন্ড মোর ডেসক্রিপটিভ। সো আপনি ইজিলি ইন্টারপ্রেট করতে পারবেন কি বলা হচ্ছে এখানে। আরেকটা ছবি দেখাচ্ছি আমি, যে আমাদের বাম সাইডের ছবিটা ছিল 6th এডিশনের ছবি। আমরা অনেকেই জানি যে কিভাবে প্রজেক্টের বাজেট ক্যালকুলেট করা হয় এবং কি কি অ্যাট্রিবিউট বা কম্পোনেন্ট থাকে। সেই ছবিটাকে সেই ফিগারটাকে এখন সিম্পল করে এরকম করা হয়েছে 7th এডিশন। সো আমরা বুঝতে পারছি যে কিভাবে সিম্পল করা হয়েছে আর কি আমাদের এই পাবলিকেশনটা। সো দ্যাট ইজ মানে ওয়ান অফ দ্য গ্রেট পার্টস। দেন এটাও মানে আমার কাছে খুবই নতুন, সেটা হচ্ছে যে কখনোই PMBOK গাইডের আগে কখনোই কালারফুল পাবলিকেশন হয়নি। এবার মানে বিভিন্ন জায়গায় কালার ইউজ করা হয়েছে, স্পেশালি PMI গাইডলাইন ইউজ করে, PMI ব্র্যান্ডিং ইউজ করে, বিভিন্ন ফিগারে, ইমেজে এবং কন্টেন্টের মধ্যে কালার ইউজ করা হয়েছে। সো দ্যাট ইজ অ্যাকচুয়ালি এক্সেপশনাল। এর আগে কখনোই কালার ইউজ করা হয়নি। সো আমরা বাইরে থেকে এই জিনিসগুলো দেখছি আর কি PMBOK, এবং দেখেন ফিগারের মধ্যেও ইমেজের মধ্যেও কিন্তু কালার ইউজ করা হয়েছে। So PMBOK is now more colorful than the earlier publications. And the structure, আমরা যদি স্ট্রাকচারটা দেখি দুইটা পিকচারকে, এটা হচ্ছে 6th edition and this is actually 7th edition. So দুইটা পার্ট কিন্তু আগেও ছিল। আগের ভার্সনে 6th edition-এ PMBOK গাইডটা ছিল প্রথমে শুরুর দিকে, আর পিছনে ছিল স্ট্যান্ডার্ড, আর লাস্টে ছিল Appendices, glossary and index। বাট এখন কিন্তু এটা চেঞ্জ হয়ে গিয়েছে, স্ট্যান্ডার্ডটা চলে আসছে সবার প্রথমে, আর গাইড চলে আসছে, যে গাইডটা উপরে ছিল সেটা চলে আসছে নিচে, ঠিক আছে? সো দিস ইজ এ মেজর স্ট্রাকচারাল চেঞ্জ, এন্ড এট দ্য এন্ড দেয়ার ইজ অ্যাপেন্ডিক্স, গ্লোসারি এন্ড ইন্ডেক্স। এন্ড another very important thing is the digital part of all the standards of PMI. So আমরা কিছুক্ষণ পরে দেখবো, আমরা যখন কোড চেঞ্জেস দেখবো যে what are the code changes in PMBOK 7th edition, then we'll find that now it is not that prescriptive like 6th edition. 6th edition was actually fully prescriptive, and that was actually process oriented. While we are talking about process oriented, process actually makes everything prescriptive. So now we will see in the 7th edition there is no prescriptive information in 7th edition. So it is actually broad, in broader sense, we'll see in the coming slides. So if you want to see the detail of anything or everything that you want to use in your project management, you will find everything in this PMI Standard Plus digital platform. I will also show you how to access that. For all the PMI members, it is free. And you can access great contents there, and it is always evolving. So this is a great edition with the hard copy or soft copy documents. This is a great digital platform. All right, now let's see what are the actually code changes. All right, so now actually the main part of discussion. So let's look inside. So first I will look inside in the PMBOK standard, then I will look inside the PMBOK guide. So first major change happened is, earlier this was actually process-based approach. Now it is actually principle-based approach. This is a major shifting from 87, and the first edition was in 1996. Always PMBOK was process-based, because when PMBOK actually first written in 1987 and published in 1996, then actually all ISO standard, they are actually mostly all of them actually process-based. So following that trend, PMBOK actually written PMBOK standard, project management standard also written in process-based format or process-based approach. But now it is principle-based. Why? Main reason is, when we are actually process-based approach, then actually process actually prescribe things that you have to do this, you have to provide these inputs, you need to apply tools and techniques on those inputs, and then you will get the outputs. So that is prescriptive. But now we are going to principle based. So that principle based will be broadly based to guide the behavior of people in the projects. So principle আমাদেরকে আসলে আমাদের বিহেভিয়ারকে গাইড করবে। সো PMI আসলে 12টা প্রিন্সিপালকে আইডেন্টিফাই করেছে, এবং যখন আসলে কোনো স্ট্যান্ডার্ড, এবং এটা তো মার্কেট রিসার্চ থেকে আইডেন্টিফাই হয়েছে যে এখন বেশিরভাগ স্ট্যান্ডার্ড চলে যাচ্ছে প্রিন্সিপাল বেস। কারণ কি, প্রিন্সিপাল বেসটা আসলে সবকিছুর সাথে ইজিলি ম্যাচ করা যায়। যেমন আমি একটা ছোট এক্সাম্পল দিই, প্রিন্সিপাল মানে কি? প্রিন্সিপাল মানে হচ্ছে ভ্যালুজ, হ্যাঁ, So আমরা ছোটবেলায় শিখেছি যে স্পিক দ্য ট্রুথ অথবা বি কাইন্ড অফ টু এভরিওয়ান। সো এই যে আমরা শিখেছি প্রিন্সিপালটা আমাদের ছোটবেলায়, সেটা কিন্তু এখনো অ্যাপ্লিকেবল এট এনি প্লেস in your professional life, in your family life, in any industry. So similarly, PMI has come up with 12 principles that actually generally we can apply in any type of projects. Not only predictive projects, it can be applied in agile and between of agile and predictive for hybrid projects. So everywhere we can use that principles. So that's why actually PMI from process based now it actually turned to principle based standard. And if you can remember this figure, we earlier said that this is the heart of PMBOK Sixth Edition. So here if you can remember, this is actually fully prescriptive. That means in initiation you have to do these processes, these 2 processes. For planning you have to accomplish these 24 processes. For execution these processes. For monitoring these processes, and closing for these processes. And in every process there are inputs, tools, techniques, and expected outputs. So fully prescriptive. But now principle will guide your behavior. Who are doing the project, involved in the project, they will be guided by the principles. So that is not prescriptive. All right. And second major change is system view. That is another great change. And system view means actually project is not a discrete thing, discrete component. So project runs in an environment, it actually delivers values. And when we are talking about values, that is actually we are talking about full value delivery landscape. Where from portfolio, your organizational governance, portfolio, program, projects, and other components of organizations are related to deliver the business value. So that is actually system view. So system view of project management is introduced in this new PMBOK Sixth Edition. Earlier, we are actually mainly focused on outputs or deliverables. All right, we are always talking about deliverables or outputs. But now, if you search in new PMBOK version, you will see outcomes. What is the difference between outcome and output? Output actually mainly focus on deliverables or artifacts or planning documents like this. We are not focusing on the main change, the main thing, why you are doing the project. Are you only focusing on product, or using that product, the change we will get, we should focus on that. All right. And that outcome actually create the value. That is the target of the project. So if we only focus on the outputs, then actually the missing will miss the value part and outcome part. So now you will see everywhere the outcome is there, not only output. And earlier, all the knowledge areas are actually output driven. We always try to get the outputs in different formats. That can be deliverables, that can be artifacts or documents. But now we are not using the term knowledge areas. Now we'll see another new term, performance domains. And the performance domains is aligned with the outcomes, all right, not the output. So that is a major shift. Let me go to the next slide. And system view that I was talking, shift knowledge areas to actually 8 performance domains. Knowledge areas, if you can remember, were output oriented. We have to create from this process, we have to create these artifacts or these plans or this deliverable. From another process of that knowledge area, we have to create another artifacts. So that was actually our main focus. But why we were using or creating those outputs or artifacts, that was missing. So now performance domains are actually outcome focused. And we'll see how that is actually managed in the new version. We'll see. So if you see the definition, a performance domain is a group of related activities that are critical for the effective delivery of the project. All right, so we are now actually focused on the value part and outcome part, not the only output part. And the next thing is tailoring the project management approach. So earlier in 6th edition, there was tailor. In every chapter, in every knowledge area, you have already seen tailoring, how you will tailor this knowledge area. But now there is a separate dedicated chapter for tailoring. All right. that we will see in the PMBOK Guide 7th Edition discussion. And it is clearly mentioned why you should do tailoring, because contest count, different type of projects you are doing, depending upon your project, depending upon your organization, and what type of projects you are doing, it actually needs to always tailor. You need to tailor the processes, you need to tailor the artifacts. So that tailoring is discussed in a dedicated section in PMBOK 7th Edition. So that is another big change. And where are the ITTOs? So this is the big questions. Those who actually read out the PMBOK 6th edition. So where are the ITTOs? So there is a separate section in PMBOK guide that is named actually models, methods, and artifacts. There you will see all the ITTOs. And more than that, you will see models like communication models, like modification models. You will see methods, say estimation model methods, then unvalue analysis methods. And you will see a lot of artifacts, more than in PMBOK 6th edition version, but that are not prescribed or not in detailed format. Those are actually mentioned as teaser. And it is not mentioned where and how you should apply these ITTOs. All right. And ITTOs term is not used. Now it is models, methods, and artifacts. And PMI actually not prescribed anything where you should apply which input, use technique, or model, methods, artifacts. You have to identify where you should use these models, methods, and artifacts. And the great thing is the digital platform, Standard plus PMI.org. If you go there, you can search anything there. You need a template for your risk register, you can search there. You need some information, you need some knowledge or some story or experience that already shared there. You can search it out and you can read, you can listen, you can find a lot of videos there and a lot of templates there. So all the detail actually now kept in the digital platform, not in the PMBOK standard or PMBOK guide. So let's look inside the standard project management. What is there? The standard for project management. In this standard, there are actually 3 sections, only 3 sections, and it is only 61 or 65 pages in length. So the 3 sections, the first section is introduction. So there is actually different intro type discussion is there. Why actually PMBOK and why it is actually now principle based, and terminologies. Foundational definitions is there. What is program, what is project, what is outcome, what is output. So these definitions are there. So this consists of actually introduction chapter. And then a system for value delivery. This is the very important chapter that is actually added now. So that is actually talking about the outcome and benefit part. Full value spectrum. All right. Value landscape, value chain, or value delivery landscape it is talking about. What is value? What are the components related to produce that value? And as a project management team, in this book, there is no role is defined. Rather, it is defined what are the functions you need to do, you need to perform to make the project successful, project management successful. So you will find the detailed discussion here. All right, value delivery. So this is a new topic that is not discussed in earlier any versions of the PMBOK in this great detail. Then the 12 principles. All right. So we see what are those 12 principles. So these are the 12 principles. So this actually guide us to correct your behavior, to know the purpose. So this is actually a value and principle that will drive the project managers and the people who are related or working in the project environment. So first one is the board word. What actually every principle is discussed in detail there, but each principle actually labeled in one word. So I actually bolded that word. So be diligent, respectful, and caring steward. See, that word is actually steward. That means caregivers. And you are the leader and you are the caregivers for the organization, for the project, and for the customers, or for the society for whom you are doing the project. So the stewardship is the first principle. Second is create a collaborative projecting environment. That is very important, right? Collaboration and team. And third one is effectively engage with the stakeholders. All right. If you cannot engage the stakeholders, and if you can't engage yourself with the stakeholders, then you cannot make your project successful. So this is another guiding principle. Then focus on value. This is the most important principle, right? So we should not focus only on the output. We need to focus on outcome, and that outcome will generate benefit or business value. So we need to focus on that throughout the life cycle of the project. Then the fifth principle is recognize, evaluate, and respond to system interactions. So that I talked earlier, the system view. All right. So project is not a discrete component. This is a connected component. So when you are managing project, you have to actually think about the whole systems and other components those are related to with the project. So that we need to consider the whole system. And here actually you have to apply system thinking, critical thinking, a lot of things introduced in here in this principle. Then demonstrate leadership behaviors. All right. So leadership is another principle that you have to apply while you are doing project management. Then tailoring. So tailoring is very important. So you are following one method, say Prince2 or PMBOK, and you are just following the book, that will not make your project successful. So depending upon your environment, your project types, your team, you have to tailor based on the context. Then build quality into process and developers. So you have to focus on quality, not only product. You have to also focus on the quality of the products, and that's why you have to work proactively and navigate complexity. Very important. There is a separate publication for PMI, how to navigate in complex situation. Navigate complexity. There is a standard of PMBOK. So navigate complexity is actually when we are doing project. So there are a lot of components involved in project. Say people component, and people is very complex, right? So different components will be, we need to consider, we need to manage, and all those things are actually complex systems. So we need to know how to navigate in those complex situations and optimize risk response. This is very important. And the main takeaway from this principle is being proactive. You have to be proactive in every situation so that you can easily handle risk. And the 11th principle is embrace adaptability and resiliency. This is, I think, one of the important principles here. So we need to adapt and we need to be resilient. Otherwise, we cannot manage projects. So we have that plan, and we just follow the plan. Plan is not static. Everything in project can be changed. So you have to adapt. Otherwise, you cannot make your project successful. And the last principle is enable change to achieve the envisioned future state. So this is actually talking about change management. So these are the 12 principles, and all the principles are actually mentioned like this. Let me give an example. The stewardship, the first principle. So that is actually, the level is stewardship. All right, the first principle. And what actually stewardship means to you, that actually described here. And what are the key points? What are the key points as a steward you need to do? All right. So that actually mentioned here. And on this, you will see 2-3 pages of description of each of the points. So every principle, there is a label, and there is a description of that label, and what are the key points against that principle that is described here, and in detail that is described in the later pages of PMBOK standard. All right, now let's talk about PMBOK guide. Let's talk about PMBOK guide. Just deep dive now on PMBOK guide. So it is 195 pages, and there are also some appendices. So let me discuss here. So PMBOK guide, actually there are 4 sections. So number 1 is introduction. So there are actually introductory elements there. Then project performance domains, and these project performance domains are outcome oriented, not output oriented. That's why these are not actually knowledge areas. knowledge area actually prescribed, but here you will see very easy description how you need to manage different domains and what you need to do, what are the activities you should do, in very simple language, and there is no prescription, no prescribed thing there. So this is actually very high level. Now you have to decide how you do those domains. So I will show you what are the 8 domains and I will discuss each domain. Then tailoring. Why we need tailoring? I think we all understand why tailoring is required and what to tailor. What are the things you need to tailor? That also mentioned just in this section. Then how to tailor, how also described in this section. So this is actually a great edition in the PMBOK guide, 7th edition. And there is no ITTOs, rather we are having models, methods and artifacts, and those are actually not prescriptive, all right? So that is actually like teasers, or you can know these are the tools, technique available, methods available, models available. Now you have to pick out which model you want to use. And if you want to know detail, you can take help from PMBOK Guide 6th edition or other versions, or you can use the PMI Standard Plus digital platform. So see that this picture, what is the relation between the principles and the performance domains? So these are the 12 principles, all right? So please remember, principles, there is no actual weightage or priority. The first principle is the first priority, no. And these 8 domains, these are actually not getting any weightage or any sequence or priority. Those are actually, there is a term used, interactive, integrated, and interdependent. So all past purpose domains are interactive, independent, and depends upon each one. So there is no sequence actually. So if you can see this, I think you can relate. Those who already studied PMBOK 7 or have seen done for PMBOK 7, they can relate with the knowledge areas, but these are not knowledge areas. As I am mentioning, knowledge areas are actually prescriptive and output oriented, but these performance domains are now outcome oriented, all right, and not prescriptive. So first one is a stakeholder, all right. So here you will see in very simple language, who are the stakeholders, how to identify stakeholders, how you should, what are the actions you need to do to plan for the stakeholders, and how we will engage the stakeholders, how we will monitor the performance of stakeholders engagement. So those are the things that is actually mentioned in a very simple language, and that is not prescriptive. Very simple language. And if you want to know how to actually manage or engage stakeholders, you need to take help from other publications or PMA Standard Plus platform. Then team, all right. So team is another very important performance domain. So team means actually, this is actually core team, those who are actually doing the project. So how will acquire team, how will manage team, how will develop the team, how will do the team building part, then how will grow your team, all right? So those are the things are discussed in this performance domain. Then development approach and life cycle. So here actually discuss 2 life cycles. Based on your project, you need to select what type of life cycle suit your project. So at the extreme, we can use predictive life cycle, and another extreme we can use adaptive life cycle. And in the middle, that PMI is promoted, we can use hybrid life cycles. So what life cycle suits with my projects? All right, so that you need to decide from this preference domain. And very important note here for everyone. Sometimes we actually call predictive approach as waterfall approach or traditional approach. So please, from now, don't use traditional one. Traditional means what? That is actually not relevant now. Always we are focused on modern methods. So if we say that predictive is a traditional approach or waterfall approach, then actually we are actually making it past thing. That is not now relevant. But this is also a valid method approach, and adaptive is also a valid method approach in different situations, different projects. Some projects, predictive is very better, and some projects maybe adaptive is better. But 2 methodologies life cycles, both are actually valid. You cannot say this is traditional. All right. So this is a note for everyone, especially PMP aspirant and who are actually with the PMA community. And then planning. So this is actually talking about the whole planning. It is talking about your scheduling, costing, budgeting, then physical resource, human resource. Every planning it is talking about it, and it is actually integration part. Not only planning, all the planning you need to integrate. So here you will get all the information related to planning. So who actually know about the knowledge areas of PMBOK, they can get a lot of similarities, but that is actually high level similarities in the performance domains. So it is planning, then it is project work. That is actually it is actually talking about execution. Planning is done, how you should execute now. Then delivery. Focus on product. Ultimately, first we have to deliver the product or deliverable. That actually create the outcome and that create benefit or value. So we have to also focus on the delivery part. All right. Then measurement. We have to always measure. Otherwise, this is actually talking about progress measurement. And there are a lot of measuring techniques that is mentioned here. See lagging measurements, leading measurements. So you have to monitor your progress, how your project is performing. So that measurement is a separate chapter and it's a great chapter. And then it is last purpose domain is uncertainty. We are easily understanding this is actually talking about risk management. And being proactive is the main takeaway when you are going to manage your risk. All right. So these are the 8 domains. And in the PMBOK guide, these 8 purpose domains are discussed in great detail. But please remember that those are not now prescriptive. Those are discussed from very high level and very simple language. You will love it. All right, let me go to the next slide. So these are the 8 purpose domains that I talked about. And each purpose domain actually start with this figure. This figure. So the stakeholder purpose domain. So what are the functions and stakeholder purpose domain actually associated with what are the activities and functions? And what are the outcomes? See here, not outputs. What are the outcomes we want to get from this performance domain? So we are focusing on outcomes, not creating any deliverable artifacts or documents. We are focusing on outcomes. So here we are actually focusing on 3 outcomes. And very interesting, after this, you will get the detailed discussion of the stakeholder purpose domain, how to identify stakeholders, then planning for stakeholder engagement, then executing the plan, then monitoring the performance of the engagement. So that discussion you will see after that. All right. And at the end, you will see you have to check these outcomes. When you are doing a lot of things, you have followed processes, you have not done a lot of activities and functions. Now we have to check whether your efforts match with these outcomes or not. So in every chapter in purpose domain, you will see the outcomes, what is the target outcomes of this stakeholder purpose domain. And at the end of that section, you will see the checking things. You have to measure whether you have achieved that outcome or not. So that is very interesting. So after this table, you will see some definitions. Those definitions are used in that discussion. And then at the end that I was mentioning, those 3 outcomes that we targeted at the first of stakeholder purpose domain. Now you have to check after doing all the activities, all the functions, whether you have achieved these outcomes or not. So if didn't, then you have to actually try, improve, plan, update again. So you have to inspect and adapt. All right. So this way, actually, every purpose domain is discussed in PMBOK 7th edition PMBOK guide. So that is actually a massive change. And let me talk about the tailoring. So in the tailoring chapter, actually, these are the steps you have to follow. Select approach, which approach you will use. Then whether you will use adaptive approach or predictive approach, and tailor for your organization. Based in your organizational context, you have to tailor your project. Then tailor for the project. All right. Depending about the project industry, what type of projects you are doing, based on that you have to tailor. So detailed discussion you will get in that tailoring session. And implement ongoing improvement. So when you will get any improvement, any chance that can contribute to the organization, that you have to find out and that have to implement. All right. So this is a continuous process also. Once you have tailored one thing, and that is not the end of the tailoring. So after every stage, you have to find out the improvement scope. Continuous improvement you have to find out. All right. So this is the essence of tailoring. And the last section you have in the PMBOK Guide 7th edition, that is actually models, methods, and artifacts. So in the model sections, you will see list of different models, like communication model, motivation models, tactics models. So a lot of models you'll see there. All right. And then in methods, you will see, for example, alternative analysis, unvalue analysis, unscheduled analysis. So you will see a lot of methods available for project management, but you will see only the definitions or just type information. But now, if that is appropriate for you, you need to find out the main knowledge or great detail in other platforms like PMI Standard Plus platform. And the artifacts like project charter, business case, project management plan, requirement traceability matrix. So all the artifacts are mentioned in this artifacts section. All right. So, but there is no template. There is no detail. So if you want to get the detail, you have to go to PMI Standard Plus platform. All right. So this way, actually, PMBOK Standard, PMBOK Guide, and PMI Standard Plus digital platform is connected. And after every section, say model, after discussing and listing out all the models, available models, that will actually evolve. Time will go and it will evolve. And method artifacts all will evolve. So after discussing all the models, you will see that in which performance domain you can use which models. So there is a mention in the last page of every model, method, and artifacts section. So you will see in 8 domains where actually this fits, these models. All right. So in the methods section, you also see these are the list of methods, and that actually detailed earlier. And in the last page, you will see where in the performance domain this can be fit, suit. All right. But the greater detail and the prescribed version is not there in the PMBOK Seventh Edition. All right. And lastly, the appendices part. So there are actually 4 or 5 sections there. So one section is a sponsor. It was not earlier there. It is actually like executive of Prince 2, a sponsor. So a sponsor, what actually his responsibility, and the sponsor is a very important role in every project. And not the project manager. Project manager can see the project management part, but the leadership part and beyond the project manager, we need a sponsor. So you will see a lot of discussion about the sponsor. Then you will get a detailed discussion about project management office, because we are talking about governance, we are talking about tailoring. So these things will come from the PM office, the Center of Excellence. And another thing is product. That is another very important discussion. So we know that project lifecycle and product lifecycle is different. All right. So our target is to produce the product. And there is actually a connection between the product and the project lifecycle. And based on the product, we need to choose what kind of lifecycle we should use. So you will see greater detail related to product here. And there's one concept is continuous delivery is coming up now, right? Continuous delivery. So project is done and our work is done, is not happening now. Yes. Now, some people are talking about no projects. You can find out hashtag no projects, right? So it is actually talking about the continuous delivery process. All right. And based on the product, what type of life cycle you will choose. So these are the appendices. main appendices. Other I actually skipped. Those are not that important. This is the last slide. And this is actually last part of the discussion. Impact on PMP exam after the PMBOK Seventh Edition standard and guide is published. All right. So my first comment is there is no impact. All right. There is no impact on PMP exam, especially those are sitting in 2021. Please remember, the exam is now following the exam content outline, not following the PMBOK. Right? So PMBOK just now is a reference document. So you have to see the exam content outline. If that exam content outline is updated, then you have to change your reading or your reference documents or reference readings, reference texts. But unless otherwise ECO is not changed, you have to follow the current ECO, and that ECO is not connected with the PMBOK. All right. So in ECO there are 36 topics, 36 tasks, and based on the 36 topics, PMI has given the authorized training providers the manual for student manual that you can collect there, and that student manual is directly connected to ECO. All right. So changing of PMBOK for, I can say in 2021 there is no impact. And you can also check the reference list. If you go to the PMI website and the PMP section, PMP exam or PMP certificate section, you see the reference list. So there are actually 10 books listed there. And the PMBOK Sixth Edition is still there. So when that will change, then you can actually start reading PMBOK Seventh Edition. So it will depend on the ECO, and ECO actually a very hard process. Not that PMBOK sit down one day and produce the ECO. They did a lot of research, market research, and based on that market research, they have created that ECO. And based on that ECO, they are creating the questionnaires for PMP exam. So suddenly that will not change. All right. If it changes, it will change very gradually. All right. So should be a gradual process, apparently, but it will not change actually. So no worries. Who are actually targeting to complete their PMP exam in 2021, there is no worries for you to read the PMBOK Sixth Edition. Nothing to do with PMBOK Seventh Edition. But ifs and buts, last point is ifs and buts. There are some people or some students, aspirants will be there who are actually think if I not read PMBOK 7, maybe I will be a loser, or I will get some questions that will based on PMBOK 7 edition. For them, you can read only this 1 to 129 pages of PMBOK guide. Those actually who are actually interested to read, because these pages are actually directly related to PMBOK 7 edition knowledge areas. All right. So this much you can read. I don't see any point to read 7th edition unless otherwise ECO and the reference which is updated or changed. And that will be a gradual process. It will not happen abruptly or advancedly. All right. So this is from my side. So I try to summarize what are the major changes, the core changes in PMBOK 7th edition. And also, I try to actually talk about the PMP's relation with the PMP exam, with the PMP 7th edition.